Hey guys, how are you? So this Friday's masterclass, we're going to dive into I want to work in Canada, and we're going to talk all about work permits and how to get them. I'm here today with Norbert. Say hi, Norbert.
Hey everyone, how's it
Hi,
going?
Norbert. We're socially distancing, so he's off. He's off in the office, and I'm not. But listen, there's a lot of information in this topic today. We're diving into work permits. There's so many different types and for so many different uses. This is very high level. You can check out some of our other videos, which we've done with these master classes, where we actually dive deeper into the different programs, such as the Caregiver Program, the Global Talent Stream, or something along those lines. So those are more of a deep dive into that stuff. This today is just an overview to give you a whole bunch of information about different work permits. All right, so let's dive in. Let's talk about what we're going to do today. So we're going to talk about the Canadian Temporary Foreign Worker Program and also the International Mobility Program. We're going to talk about the different types of LMIAs. An LMIA, we did a whole 45 minutes on that as well, where we looked at different types of LMIAs, and an LMIA is a labor market impact assessment. What an LMIA does is it's a precursor for a lot of different work permits. So you need to have a labor market impact assessment, which just assesses the type of job that you're looking at filling. They're going to the government is going to look at the what's the word I'm looking for? The ability for the employer to be able to meet their obligations under that LMIA, and B, they're going to be looking at the Canadian labor market to see what the effect is of bringing in that foreign worker has on Canadian workers. All right. We're going to talk about caregiver programs, global talent stream, IEC, or the International Experience Canada, and then we'll dovetail into open work permits, post-grad work permits. And then, as everybody wants to know, because we get a lot of questions about it, how to use your work permits to immigrate to Canada. All right. So that's our stuff for today. And if you notice, I'm speaking very quickly because we do have a lot of material to cover. So temporary foreign worker program, there's two different levels to this. And actually, they're two different. The title should be different. It should be actually worker mobility program. So that should be separate, because the international worker mobility is outside of temporary foreign worker program, and then the temporary foreign worker program is what's administered under things like the LMIAs, seasonal agricultural, the SWAP program. Sorry, I've got so much going through my mind here today with all these work permits. Global Talent Stream, all of these different programs, okay? International mobility, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, are programs that are generally like, say NAFTA or the USMCA or CETA, which is the Canadian European Trade Agreement, an intercompany transfer. These are all part of the international mobility program. So they're outside of doing a traditional LMIA. As of 2016, there were 600,000 foreign workers. Again, that statistic goes up and down. What's important is that there's a number of foreign workers here in Canada working under the various programs. And depending on the level of work permit, depending on the job that you're working in, if it's skilled work, it can lead to permanent residency if that's what you're looking for. Or if it's not skilled work, sometimes there are exemptions under the like the provincial categories, where they will take the NOC 0A or B are generally skilled work. C and D jobs, there are some different programs that allow you to be able to immigrate through that. But we're not going to, a little off topic there, but let's see here. Okay, so what are we doing here? Okay, Norbert, I think I've kind of got a little, I got a little too eager there, didn't I?
Can I add one thing about the
Absolutely, you can.
one of the big differences between the temporary foreign worker program and the international mobility program um, is that the temporary foreign worker program is overseen by Employment and Social Development Canada, or ESDC.
Yeah.
So you have to go through them first to make sure that the employer can actually hire someone. And then you go through immigration to get the work permit. Whereas international mobility, which is if you qualify under one of those loose collection of streams, it's often a quicker way to get a work permit because it's not overseen by ESDC. It's just overseen by Immigration Canada. So it's often quicker.
And depending on what nationality you are, you can literally front up at the border and have that granted, like at the airport, if your documents are and you have the proper travel authorization to show up at the border. You can generally request that through the CBSA officers. So they generally do work pretty quickly in that respect. I'm just looking at my screen. I got see this, everybody? I don't know if there's anybody from India watching. I've got my India Gate cup from Starbucks. And then I got the cricketer on the background. So I love that. I just was noticing that in the monitor. Okay, let's move on. Do you want to do LMIAs or you want me to do it, Norbert?
You can do the LMIAs.
Okay, awesome. Because we all love LMIAs so much. Okay, and that there's a lot of sarcasm in that. So LMIAs, there's a number of different streams. So basically they separate them between low and high wage streams. They used to be separated on skill level. I'm not going to go into the history of all of that. What you need to know is there's different streams, with low wage having more obligations on the employer, so to speak. You've got a high wage stream. You've got a stream that will lead directly to like a transition to permanent residency. And that's where things kind of differ in terms of the transition plans. Again, as Norbert pointed out, Service Canada or ESDC are the people that administer the temporary foreign worker program. And then for the second stage, when you need the work permit, that's actually carried out by IRCC, or Immigration, Refugee, Citizenship Canada. A lot of acronyms, right? Okay, so differences between the low and high wage. So processing times, there are certain provisions in there, and certainly with COVID right now, we're seeing some pretty interesting processing times. I've had some stuff that's been in for a little while. I had some other stuff that was done in like record time. I assume, and this is my assumption based on conversations with some colleagues, obviously, a lot of stuff has toned down due to the fact that, if you're going the LMIA route during COVID, there's going to be a lot of people that are looking for work. So ESDC is exploring that, obviously. While at the same time, people are still, they're still processing it, but there's certain restrictions in place. So you need to make sure that you actually have the job available and you're not subject to the opening plans or things like that. Hiring caps, sometimes depending on unemployment rates and where you are. I am certainly not going to get into that, but that's a difference between a low wage, high wage. Advertising and recruitment. There are certain provisions depending on that. Normally it has to run for a month. It has to be, you definitely have to use the job bank, but again, if you start getting into like an owner operator LMIA or even like camp counselors or different things, there's different streams and different exemptions to the advertising rules, or different exemptions altogether to that. So, and these can vary depending on the program that you're under. Transportation and housing, again, if you're on the lower end of like skilled work, the employer's obligated to supply this stuff. Whereas if you're not, you're going to be on your own ticket for that, and that's generally covered. Transition plans, heck, I could do a whole 45 minutes on transition plans alone. Transition plans generally are, you have to show, like in the name temporary foreign worker, like temporary, right? It's a temporary fix. Now, they want to know how you're not going to be reliant on, for like, the Canadian government wants to know how the company is not going to be reliant on foreign workers going forward. So what is their transition plan into filling this skill gap or this need? So what generally tends to happen is that you have to have a plan, like, so I'm going to bring in this worker and they're going to teach these people and relay these skills, et cetera, et cetera. However, if you're doing an LMIA, which is to support permanent residency, then the transition plan becomes somewhat negligible, because really at the end of the day, my transition plan is that I have, I'm going to have this person as a permanent resident, and hopefully they're going to continue to work with me. So yeah, that's it. I'm not going to dive too much into that because we really got a lot that we want to cover. So caregiver programs, Norbert, this is yours. And just before you start that, Norbert,
yeah.
Jocelyn asked how to apply as a caregiver. So there's Jocelyn there. Hi, Jocelyn. How are you? Thank you for watching. So we're not, just to address your question there, Jocelyn, we're not going to get into the full caregiver program, but Norbert's going to give you a really nice overview of this as well. But we did another 45-minute presentation on just the caregiver program a little while back. So yeah, so there you go. So, and I guess Juno is asking the same thing. Caregivers are popular today. So Norbert, go for it.
Thanks, Brandon. So currently there are 2 new caregiver pilot programs that are 5 years long. They've been in place now for a year. There's 2 streams. One is for caring for home child care caregiver, and the other is as a personal support worker. For any overseas foreign nationals that want to apply as a caregiver, they have to go through one of these 2 streams. But they replaced a number of older caregiver programs, and one of the big differences is with the older caregiver programs, they were work permit based first, where you would apply with an LMIA from an employer, and then you get your work permit, and then after 2 years, depending on what program you are in, you could be eligible for permanent residency. The 2 new pilot programs, you're applying for permanent residency at the beginning. And you get your work permit once they've pre-approved you for permanent residency. So what this means is processing times are generally 12 months now, is what they're trying to commit to, because they have to do all the background checks for you, make sure you have the experience as a caregiver, the educational qualifications, there's no security issues with you. So it can take about 12 months, and then you're pre-approved for permanent residency, and then you get your work permit. The other big difference is under the 2 pilot programs, the work permit is no longer employer specific. It is job specific. So you're going to be either under a NOC code as a child caregiver or as a personal support worker. And the work permit will be for 3 years. And it will allow you to work with, even though you're going to have a job offer from an employer and a contract with that employer, it does give you the flexibility to change employers down the road if you need to, but only within that job specific category. So you're no longer tied to one employer. Whereas under the old programs, the work permit was employer specific. The program also allows you to get PR, permanent residency, for your accompanying or non-accompanying immediate family members, like your spouse or dependent children. You can either do it up front and have them accompany you after your application is processed, or you could come first, and then later on, once you're a PR, you can apply to have your family come as PRs as well. So if you're in Canada now and you're qualified as a caregiver, that means you've got the educational background and the work experience, you can still go through the temporary foreign worker program. That is, you can find an employer that can put in an LMIA for you, and then you'll get a work permit after a few months for 2 years, but that work permit will still be employer specific. Now, I had mentioned before really quickly, pre-approval for PR. So once you're here, you have to get 24 months or 2 years of working full-time as a caregiver. Once you've satisfied that 24 months, then you can finalize your permanent residency in Canada. And the government's trying to commit to about a 6-month period for that after you've done your 2 years. If you already have your 2 years of working in Canada, you can still apply for this, for your PR under these programs. I think that's about it, real quick. I mean, I could go on for a long time, but like Brandon said, we've already done a masterclass on this, and you're free to get access to that as well.
Yeah, there's we dove pretty deep in that. So what's important right now to know is that we're in a transition period with the caregiver program, we're trying to we're dealing with a number of different programs, and the most important thing, I think Norbert reiterated that, is that if you're on the LMIA, or if you came here under an LMIA previously, you can still apply under that. There is something on the form as well that says that you can apply if you're a student on the LMIA form and you're transitioning over. However, we've looked into that with IRCC, because you got to understand you're dealing with 2 different departments there. So you need to be a little bit careful with that as well. So we'll keep you posted on that, because we're working on a few clarifications with that. Now, listen, I got a few questions that are coming in here, and normally we leave them till the end, but I just wanted to dive into a few of them, because they're starting to come in here a little bit. So Toledo, do you need to apply for an LMIA if you're going to hire here in Canada? Because they told me we don't need to apply, just apply for the work permit, that's it. I don't know what type of work permit you're talking about exactly. What type of work permit is that? And it sounds a little suspect to me, depending on what type of work permit it is. So if you're still watching, Toledo, put it in chat and I'll take a look. I'll take a stab at it though. So if it's under the caregiver program or employer specific, then you're going to need an LMIA if you're already on that program. If you're not, then you're going to need caregiver. Okay, so if you're on a caregiver program, then you definitely need, and it's a closed work permit, then you certainly need to you need an LMIA, or you need to apply under the new program if you're not under the previous in-home caregiver program. If you've applied for permanent residency, you might have an option at an open work permit, depending on the program that you've applied for. But generally, if you're here as a caregiver and you have a work permit under the in-home, you can still use the LMIA program, which is actually a good benefit for you as well. All right, so hopefully that helps out. If you need some more in-depth information, then please just reach out to us. Obviously you're on Facebook, so you can find us. And Alpha wrote in here, so I'm a skilled worker in Saudi Arabia. I work as a maintenance electrician for a plant for 11 years. Which program is best for me? I'm 39 years old. Okay, so a little off topic for what we're doing today. However, I want to make sure that, we can help some people out here and give them some sort of direction. Normally, I would think that you probably want to be under like a federal skilled trades program, possibly, depending on your experience. I would, there's so many different variables to that, and it's a little outside of the work permit side, but reach out to us. We can do a quick assessment, take a look at your resume. We don't charge for that initially. And then if it is something that we can work with, then we'll certainly do a deeper dive and do a consultation with you. All right. So thanks for watching. And I love the little GIF there. I don't know what that is. Looks like my hero. My hero. Okay, what is that? Is there any nationality restriction for the pilot programs, Isabel? No, there is no nationality restriction. Okay, and last one here. Manal, I don't know how to say that. I'm sorry. Are we considered like permanent resident when we arrive in Canada under this program, even if we don't have a PR? Norbert, why don't you grab that one? I'm answering all the questions.
Okay, well, you've been approved in principle for PR, but when you arrive, you're on a work permit, a 3-year work permit. So you're not a PR technically. You have to be here for 24 months on the work permit, working full time, and then you can apply to become a PR. So it's a pre-approval. The government's basically saying that you've passed all their background checks to become a PR. However, with your new work permit, you're going to have to work for 24 months. During that time, you're on a work permit, but then you become a PR after 24 months. You can apply to become a PR, which takes about 6 months is what they're aiming for.
Yeah. So basically, to sum up in like 2 seconds, you're not a PR, but you've been approved, and once you complete the work term, then you will be finalized. Okay, so they're doing everything as if you're a PR. We're going to move on, but just to acknowledge, we had MD Abdur Razak. He's Bangladeshi. How do I get an international work permit? So keep watching the presentation. And hopefully you'll find some information here. And then afterwards, you can reach out to us if you see something that you'd like to query about. And then we'll go from there. All right. One thing I do want to say, just as a bit of an aside, work permits are generally, they don't just give them out all over the place. And there's so many different people that Norbert and I see that come to us, and they've, engage the services of fraudulent dudes that are selling jobs that don't even exist. And honestly, they go to great pains to do this. So be very skeptical when somebody offers you a job, and certainly if they offer you a job and ask you to pay for it. Yeah, just a ton of that. All right, so let's move on there, Norbert. Caregiver programs, global talent. You want me to grab this or you?
Oh, you can take that one.
All right, because I love the global talent so much. So the global talent stream is basically for tech professionals. And this program was brought about as a pilot project a few years back. And the reason that it was brought in is that it allows the tech industry, which, as we know, tech is really so fast moving and everything, that it allows them to bring the right qualified in-demand people in that industry into the country very quickly. So it's not really an LMIA base. There is an application. It's got a few different components to it that are different. There's 2 different streams. There's a category A and a category B. And then you have to do a labor market benefit plan. But again, it's looking at things that are similar with like a transference of skills and bringing in, there's a complementary benefits and there's mandatory benefits. And I'm throwing all these terms around, and it's probably more confusing. But there's a really good, we did a 45-minute presentation on this as well. So go look at that, and we dive deeper into that. It's similar to an LMIA, but it is a global talent stream under the temporary foreign worker program. But here's the thing, right? It's restricted to the jobs that you can apply under. The processing is very different from an LMIA. I find it very collaborative with the industry and also the government. It's fantastic, and it's super quick. Like, you can have this done in 2 weeks. Like literally, we'll file the application and we'll have a call within 48 hours, not even 24 hours in my last one. And the reason is because they want it done. They want it done and finished, and they want to meet their service standards, which, again, I'm always quick to criticize, but I'm also very quick to compliment. And in this program, Service Canada is doing it right. On top of that, IRCC will allow you to get the work permit within 10 days too, and there's a provision there. So technically, you can have somebody in the country with the proper documentation within 20 days, which is, in immigration terms, like amazing. All right. It can certainly lead to a pathway to PR if somebody wants to go that route. And the biggest thing is that the reason that that you can certainly see a PR out of that is because all of the jobs are skilled work, and you're getting Canadian work experience, and you're adding all those different points to your express entry. All right, let's move on. Norbert, IEC. You want this, or do you want me to grab it?
You can. I think you wanted to do that one as well.
I know. Yes, I did, didn't I? We did. Norbert and I did talk before this. Okay, so IEC. So, IEC. So this is through Global Affairs Canada. It's a program unto itself, and it's based on different agreements between different countries. That's why you'll see certain countries are under, and they're generally reciprocal agreements, but you'll see certain countries are under these agreements where others are not. Okay, currently Canada, 36 countries. I believe we're expanding that as well to some other countries recently. And generally what happens is that, you can apply under different streams. There's the working holiday, and this is what most people know it as. There's a young professional, and then there's the international co-op or the internship. You can actually gain experience under this if you want to stay in Canada, depending on the type of job that you're doing. But it is an international program that offers you an open work permit. Okay, and what's interesting about that is that each country has negotiated something different. So, for instance, I'm just thinking off the top of my head. So, Ireland, for instance, you can get 2-year permit. Spain, I think it's 1 year in one stream, and then you can come back and do the young professionals in it for another year under another stream. Under the young professionals. So you can do the working holiday and then do the young professionals as long as you wait for 3 months. Okay, so it might be renewable. You can't really bring your dependents under that program, so that's something totally different. But the benefit is that you can gain, Canadian work experience. Now, you see the recognized organizations. Outside of that, if you're not covered under that in terms of the country, you can actually go through a recognized organization, which are organizations that will have work components for that, and jobs for people whose nationalities aren't under there. So I would suggest this is something I don't think that we've done, but we are doing coming up. So watch for that. We'll do a deeper dive into the whole IEC program outline. All right, awesome. So let's go to Norbert. This is yours, buddy.
Okay, great. So open work permits. There are a number of different programs that offer open work permits. So we'll just go through them quickly here. We'll dive into a couple of them later on, but for family sponsorship and also through economic programs, there can be open work permits. For example, for family sponsorship, if you're in Canada and you're sponsoring your spouse or common law partner, your spouse or common law partner can apply for an open work permit at the same time that you put in your application for permanent residency. So this will allow, after 3 or 4 months, your partner will get their open work permit, and then while they're waiting on their permanent residency approvals, they'll be able to work in Canada during that time. Brandon just talked about the international experience class for the working holiday participants. It'll be an open work permit as well. And I've seen a lot of these participants a lot of them come to Canada, they're here for a holiday, but they get to work, and you see a lot of them I've noticed them in the restaurant business quite a bit, where my waiter or waitress will have a Eastern European accent, and I'll start talking to them and find out they're here on a working holiday. So it's an open work permit. For many skilled workers, their spouses and partners can often get an open work permit as part of the program they've applied through. This is also true for international students. If you're an international student thinking about coming to Canada, please be aware that if you have a spouse, partner, they can come with you and get and they can work while you're studying. And this is really important if you're thinking about permanent residency down the road, because while you're in school for 2 years, your spouse or partner could be gaining valuable Canadian work experience for those 2 years while you're in school. Bridging open work permits, we'll get into that a little bit more, so I don't want to spend a lot of time on that. And postgraduate work permits, if you're a student here at a designated learning institution and a qualifying school for a postgraduate work permit, that is also an open work permit, which will allow you to work. Basically, it means you can work in any job unless there's conditions placed on your work permit. And the importance about the open work permit is that you can really maximize your time with those work permits and get a valuable skill qualifying job in Canada, and that will help you if you're thinking about permanent residency, as you'll be able to gain valuable points to apply for permanent residency under something like the Canadian Experience class. So that's an important thing to note about open work permits. Not employer specific, but they allow you to work just about any job. You may have a condition or two on that work permit, but they're a great way to gain valuable work experience if your long-term goal is permanent residency. So that's, anything else you want to add there, Brandon?
No, I think you covered it. But what I am going to do is, there was a question that popped up here,
yeah,
from Angeli Joyce Bueno, sorry. So she asked, it's the reason I put it up is because it's actually quite topical. My husband is on an open work permit as my dependent as an international student. So just echoing what Norbert just said, how can he change his work permit into an employer-specific work permit? Okay, so I am reluctant to answer that question because I don't know all the details. My first question would be is why do you want to do that? And you don't have to type it out because that's more of a personal thing, but we can, you can contact us afterwards. I'm going to answer your question generally. So normally, what you're going to see me say is that I like to always be very mindful of the strategy that we're going to employ. And I always end these presentations off in the same way. So one of the things that you need to be aware of is that might not actually be a good idea. Now, if you're chasing points down, through express entry or something, that might be a reason that you would do that. However, I would be very careful with that right now, depending on what type of job you're looking at. And also, there's a lot of things that you'd want to know. So just to give you an idea, Angeli, the reason I'm reluctant, because there's so many more details and questions I would have. Question number 1 would be, why do you want to do that? Question number 2 is, how much time does he have left on his open work permit anyways? And what is this going to achieve, right? And then 3, what type of job is it? And is it going to be something that you're going to, might be affected by COVID or something along those lines? And I just want to know what the thinking is behind that. So again, it's not always so simple in terms of, questions. And that's why sometimes we're reluctant to answer these. I've given you a few things that you need to think about, reach out to us and we can discuss it more. And actually, if you want us to take a look at it and plot something out, we can do that as well. All right, so let's move on here. Postgraduate work permit. Norbert, how about you grab that one?
Okay, great. This is one of my favorite topics, and it's one of the hallmarks that I think really attracts a lot of international students to come to Canada. And it's also something that both Brandon and I have seen many people make mistakes with. So if you're an international student planning out, the importance here is to plan out your time in Canada. But if you go to a designated learning institution that qualifies for a postgraduate work permit, and generally these are public colleges or universities that offer degrees, and there's a few private colleges that will, if they offer degrees, they may be eligible, or they may not be eligible, and so you need to determine And you can determine whether or not your institution is eligible through a government website. But what it allows you to do, if you come here for a 1-year program at one of these eligible institutions, you can then apply before you've completed your program. You can apply for a postgraduate work permit, which will be an open work permit, basically equivalent to the time or the length of your study program. So if you're here for a 1-year study program, you'll get a 1-year postgraduate work permit. If you're here for 2 years or 3 years, you could get a 2 to 3 year maximum. The maximum amount of time you'll get is a 3-year postgraduate work permit. And like I said, these are open work permits, so they allow you to work in basically any occupation. There's a couple of really important things to know about them. They are a one-time opportunity only. Once you've had one, you can't get another. So it's really important that if you do get one of these, that you maximize your use of a postgraduate work permit, especially if your end goal is to become a permanent resident. If you're going to go through the Canadian Experience class, through Express Entry, which is a point system, you'll get points for studying in Canada. You get points for the higher education you have. And you'll get a lot of points too for the number of years that you have worked in Canada. So when you get a postgraduate work permit, you want to make sure that you're going to use it in a qualifying job. And we've seen far too many students who they come here to study. Let's say, I'll just throw out an example of, they want to be engineers, right? So they graduate from university, they've got their postgraduate work permit. It's good for 2 years. But they're hell-bent on being an engineer, so they waste 16 months of that time trying to get a job in engineering. When you can't get another work permit, so you've wasted your time. Instead, they haven't worked, or they've gotten a job that does not qualify because it's not a skilled job. And I don't know, Brandon might want to tell the story of his South American friend that came here to be an engineer and decided that his permanent residency. So
you know what though, I do want to say it again, and because we should say it about 10 times over and over. Guys, it's a one-time opportunity. I'll say it again, one-time opportunity. There are so many people that come into our office, and some of them we catch them before that, and some of them waste their time. They don't understand how best to get their work experience, and they've chosen jobs that they think that have to relate to their career. But I can't, more than my fingers and toes I can count of people who've just come in, they've wasted their postgrad, they've applied when they actually don't have a pathway to permanent residency, and they've already pulled that trigger. So you really need to be careful with that, because it truly is a one-time opportunity. And even the amount of time that you put into it, you have to understand. These are why these things get so complex, because if you go and you work and then you're like, oh, I've got my work experience, and then I don't have the school stuff and I have to do it. Remember, under Canadian Experience class, that Canadian work experience is only valid for 3 years. So you would get your experience, and then you were like, oh crap, I screwed up. What am I gonna do? And then you've gone and you're erasing that as you move forward in time by having to go back and make, anyways, look, we see that a lot. That's the only reason I want to bring it up again, because I feel so bad that people, if we only met them before, we could have told them. And luckily we some people come and they'll book a consultation. We're like, no, don't do that. We're processing girl right now that comes to mind. She came in and I was like, don't do that. And she was like 2 seconds away from filing it. So anyways, and if you're watching, we hope you're doing well, because you know who you are.
Let's add one more thing to that. Yeah. In terms of maximizing your postgraduate work permit, another thing you need to do, we've had a lot of people come to us, they're graduating from school next month or this week, and they're only thinking about a postgraduate work permit right now. You need to think about it. If you're eligible to get one, you need to think about it as soon as you're starting school, because you need to start thinking about prospective employers and jobs that are going to help you get that qualifying Canadian work experience. Because if you're waiting until the end of your schooling to get your postgraduate work permit, if you're looking for PR, then you could take a lot of time trying to find that job, and you're wasting that time. So you should think about this strategically from the beginning.
Norbert, we've got a lot of questions here, and we've got a few more slides. So you're okay to stick around a little bit longer?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So Prashant D. Paulo Ortiz, Grace. Hi, Yanni. How are you? And Carla. We're going to answer those questions, okay? But let's just get through a few slides, and then we'll just dive into your questions, okay? So, and thank you for putting your questions in, because we love that stuff. You know, we're a little strange because we really like talking about immigration. So everyone keeps telling me about that. So, okay. All right. So this is what I love. I love the word strategic. I love the word strategy and all of that stuff, because really what immigration is, it's about having an elaborate strategy from the beginning. And you'll see me say this all the time, where you have to look at where you're going to be or where you want to go, and then you work it backwards and you figure out what your steps are to get to that goal. Okay. This is not, you know, I do something called an immigration blueprint, where we put together that strategy, we map it all out first, and then what we do is we have the plan, and then we have different, well, if this happens, like COVID, for instance, and again, I've mapped that into some of the things that we're taking into consideration, obviously now, but you know, you have to have a plan. So normally when I speak to a client, okay, or a prospective client, we'll do a consultation. We, you know, that's another topic, but we always start with a consultation, and the reason is because we have to know your situation. But the idea with the consultation is that we know what we're going to do and what the end goal is and what the plan is, and then we work it back with different pathways on how to get there. We always look for the quickest, the most cost effective, and the easiest one, and we do that on purpose, because that's what you want, right? You don't want to be hanging around the immigration department for years and years. And I always, when we finish with our clients, Norbert and I are always like, yeah, well, say goodbye to the immigration department, because you're done. And it's great. So the importance of strategic planning, you need to know if you need that work permit. You need to know, like, prior to, way prior to graduation, even prior to coming here, what are your steps going to be? How are you going to get through all of that? Okay. Qualifying work experience. Again, you know, you need to know what type of job you're going to have to be able to use that. You're going to need to know, do I need that job to that qualifying work experience for those like 40 extra points if you're single? And then eventually, if you're coming through here and you're not married or doing another type of program, you're going to end up in the express entry system. So you might as well calculate those points right off the bat, because that'll be the end goal. So you're going to need to know, what does that look like 2 to 3 years from now? Like if you're sitting, say, you know, overseas somewhere and you want to come home, what's it going to look like in 2 to 3 years? You know, where is the system going? What is that? And again, I don't have a crystal ball, but these are things that you want to know. And you're going to also want to know, based on the history of the points, like, how much leeway do I have? What's my backup plan if the points actually go up, you know? And we've seen with the pandemic where, you know, things that we couldn't have guessed have happened. And again, as a side note, I also want to give a shout out to the Immigration Department, IRCC, that they've generally been doing a pretty good job. Coming off the back of an issue that I'm dealing with right now, where they totally dropped the ball yesterday, and I'm dealing with today. But I, you know, generally, all in all, the response has been quite good. So let's move on because I'm going to wrap this up because we've got a ton of questions here, which is awesome. Okay. I always finish with this slide, and it's for good reason. Okay. And I firmly believe that anybody can come to Canada as long as you meet the minimum requirements. But being able to come to Canada and be successful with your application is no different than anything else in life. You need to be able to have a plan. You need to be able to actually implement it. And you got to be honest with yourself. I know that we're all like made of armor and stuff, but you know what? I know when I need help. You know, if I'm bleeding in my arm and I need to stitch it up, is the example I use. I don't get on the internet and learn how to do it like Rambo. I go to a hospital and I speak to a professional. You got to know what your limitations are and be realistic with that. But it also takes some humility to be honest with yourself and say, yeah, maybe I don't know this. Okay. We all use experts in our life. So you need to understand that. And again, that's not me shamelessly trying to promote our service. It's a fact. This is what we see, is that people try to get the stuff, they try to get it on the internet, they try to put it all together and they make a mess. And then they come in and, you know, help me, can you fix it? Sometimes we can, sometimes we can't. So what I want to tell you is I want you to think very strategically from the beginning. I want you to have a plan. And then I want to know if you can actually achieve what you're going to plan. And if you can't, then maybe it needs some readjustment. And then you're going to need to put that into place and be able to pull the trigger on it. Okay. But you really need to look from the beginning. Okay. So I'm going to stop there. I'm going to talk about questions real quick. So if you have any other questions, Norbert and I are feeling pretty awesome today, and being Friday and all, we're going to answer some questions. So let's go with Prashant. Prashant, me and my partner are on PGWP. We've been here since 2017. We filed our taxes as a single. If we want to apply for permanent residency, common law, will this affect our application? If yes, what the best way to prove common law? Okay, so a little off topic, but I'm going to give you a very general answer because what's the word I'm looking for? This could be very complicated depending on your situation. I don't know your situation, and nor are we going to get into it in detail out of respect for everybody else here, but you can reach out to me. So you can file the common law. You need to file the common law if you're actually in a common law relationship prior to somebody becoming landed, because if you try to file that going forward in the application and you didn't declare it, then that person under 117.9D will be forever unsponsorable. You're going to have to know what your points are going to look like, both accompanying and non-accompanying, and you're going to have to figure out, is your common law actually strong enough to pass the muster? I'm not going to get into the best ways to prove that because honestly, that's a very personalized in nature. I don't know anything about your situation, so I can't really comment on that. But if you want to reach out, you're more than welcome. All right. So hopefully that helps. I saw that you posted something else here as well. Let's see here. Also, is it better to apply single or common law for Canadian experience class? So again, I don't know your unique situation, but you can reach out. You have to be very strategic in that because it might be, depending on your situation and your points, that might affect you negatively. So hopefully that helps. Okay, D. Paula Ortiz. Okay, you already talked about the caregiver program, but I have a question, if it's okay. For the offer of employment form, there's a question regarding the duration of the contract, right? 2436. Thanks in advance. So you can get a work permit up to 36 months. So you can write in 24, you can write in 36, you can write in, it's 3 years. So you're going to get a 3-year work permit. But again, it has to be reflective of the job offer. I don't know. That's a general response to you, and everything that I'm giving everybody here is general responses. You need to understand that might change depending on what your situation is and what the job is and all of the other stuff. Okay. So I will leave it at that. Hopefully that helps, Paula. How about a working permit? Grace, how about a working permit? What are the requirements or needs to apply for PR? Grace, I would love to answer your question, but I actually can't because that's a very broad question. I don't know exactly which program you're under. I don't know anything about you, and I don't know what you would qualify under, et cetera, et cetera. Nor can I actually really dive into that here because of everybody else. We like to keep everything general, but please reach out to us. We can have a quick look and see if we can help out. Hi, Yanni, if you're still there. I always like Yanni. Carla. Okay, Carla's actually put in a very topical question, and it's a very popular one that we're seeing these days. I'm on a postgraduate since January, but with the COVID situation, I feel like the time I could have used for work has been wasted. Okay. And then she goes on to say, can I extend it or use COVID as a reason, or am I done? So, Carla, you are not alone. It's been a very unfortunate situation for everybody in that. And I feel that people with postgraduate work permits who have had that interrupted certainly, have gotten the short end of the stick on that. Nobody could have predicted that, and it just kind of happened. Or they could have predicted it, and it was predicted, and we didn't listen. But anyways, so currently the way it stands, and Norbert, you can jump in anytime if you want, but currently the way it stands with the Immigration Department, they are not extending postgraduate work permits for COVID. So what you've been allotted is what you've been allotted. This is the current situation. There may be some ways that you can extend, or there may be some ways that you can use that information or use that work experience that you already have. I really, again, for what it's worth, just reach out to us. We can dive into that. We've been effective in looking at some solutions. I think what I would invite you to do, Carla, is just send us an email. Let us know a little bit more about your situation, i.e. what type of job you had, how long you've been on. We'll put up our contact. Actually, I'll put up the contact details right now for you. How about that? So there you go. So what I would suggest then, Carla, is send us a quick email or contact us there. Tell us how long you've been in Canada, what you studied, all of that other stuff. Send in a resume, et cetera, et cetera. And then also let us know what you've been working or what type of work experience you have. And probably, if it's pretty basic and we can just give you kind of a one-off, we'll let you know, but it's probably going to lead to, I'll probably tell you that we'll have to dive into it and look at a strategy to do that. That would be done by way of a consultation, but if we can figure something out for you, we will. Okay. So that is that. I don't know if that's probably the answer that you're looking for, but that's the best I can do right now. And it's unfortunate because a lot of people are falling into the same spot. Okay. So just reach out to us. Okay. And we'll see what we can do. What's this? Postgraduate work permit procedure, when student can start. Okay. Why don't you answer this, Norbert?
Oh, okay. I'm not sure if they're asking when they can start the procedure. You can start the procedure before you finish school. You will have to wait for a few documents after you've completed school, your transcripts and that, to actually submit your application, but you should start a few months before then in terms of the actual application. In terms of thinking about it, you should think about it as soon as you start school. Start looking out for employers that you might want to try to get interviews with, but the application can be started before you finish your study program.
Cool. I would also add on to that you don't need to apply for that until I always tell people, don't be applying for that until you have an idea of where your job is going to be and what type of job you're going to be. They've extended the time out. Used to be like 90 days. Now you've got 6 months to be able to apply for that from graduation time or from when you wrap up school. I would strongly, strongly, strongly recommend that you're very thoughtful on when you're going to do that, how you're going to do that. And it's even more important that you do that while if you've got like a 1 year. If you've got 3 years, you've got a little bit more leeway. But again, don't waste the time. And also make sure that, as I said, I don't know when you joined us there, Shazad, is you need to be aware that, how can I put it? I feel like I'm repeating myself, but you need to also be sure that you can actually get through to your end goal. Okay, so yeah, all right. I'm going to move on from that because we have to wrap it up soon, and I want to make sure I get through all these. Okay, Avi Intervero. Man, so many interesting names today. I apologize if I'm messing the names up. Okay, can I ask the pathway eligible for me? I'm a nurse here in the Philippines, 7 years, and have a master's degree. And am I eligible for federal skilled worker pathway? And do you have any suggestion for me on the pathway that I take? Okay, so at the risk of me sounding like I'm going to shamelessly self-promote our service, let me tell you something. I don't know. This is actually it's a common question that we get, but it also leads to the same answer all the time. We have a process, and our process is that people will come in, we will ask them for their information. We don't charge for that. And I can literally look at a form and the resume and I can say yeah or no pretty quickly. Okay. We charge for our consultations. But I do not invite you in for a consultation if it's going to be no, like it's going to be a flat out no. I can tell you that depending on your age, you probably are looking pretty good, depending on where you went to school, et cetera, et cetera. So yes, you probably do. I would invite you for a consultation, but I don't know if that's also the best way for you to go. You got to understand there's 75, 80, 90, I don't even know how many different streams there are anymore with the different programs. You really have to take a broad look. Don't just say, oh, I'm a federal skilled worker because I read this on a forum somewhere. No, what you do is we collect all the information, we put it through a sieve, and we say, okay, here's this option, this option, this option. Here's the pros of this, here's the cons of this, here's the benefit, and here's what we suggest. And then at that point, you have all the information you need to make an informed decision on how to proceed. Okay, so to answer your question, I don't know the pathway you'll take, but what I do know is that you probably have a pretty good chance, depending on your age and all of the other stuff. I'd like to look at that. If you want to reach out to us, send us a message. I'll tell you how to fill in a form. And yeah, we can take a look, and I'm not going to charge you for that. I'm just going to take a look, and then if it's something that we can do, that's it. Awesome, cool. Hope that helps. All right. Okay, so I'm going to move on to, got a few more questions, and Carla, I see your messages there, so awesome. You're welcome, and please email as you see fit. Okay, Zara. Sorry, just jumped on. We just applied for IEC UK. Any clue as to when the draws will begin again? I have no clue. I can tell you right now that they're probably not going to begin anytime soon. And they've also put in other provisions for people that already have it. So you can't come unless you already have an arranged job, for instance, under that. Because they want to know that you can actually meet the quarantine plans and all of these other different things. So my guess is that they're probably not going to open that up anytime soon because, you know, for obviously with the situation. But you're in the pool, that's all you can do. So you just got to kind of hang out and see what happens. Okay. All right. Can you please answer my question? I thought I did answer your question. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Manal, you had another question. My apologies. I have another question, please. Sorry, I answered one question. I didn't know I had the other one here, so I apologize. My son has 13-year-old. My son has 13-year-old. Should I apply for study permit for him, or should I pay for his studies or not? Yeah, that's a complicated. I know nothing about your situation in terms of that. So it depends on what type of work permit you have. There's also different rules under, you know, depending on where you're applying for your work permit, and you know, I can't answer that. So the answer could be yes, and the answer could be no. So I need to know. I need to know the types of work permits that you're on. I need to know, obviously, where they were applied, where things are happening, and obviously your son's 13, so he's going to be covered under that. And we don't know anything because we need to know if we're accepted in this program, if we'll get a work permit. So you're a little ahead of the ball on that. Yeah, just reach out to us. We can look at that a little bit more closely, but yeah, that's a lot more complicated and has a lot of variables to it. Okay, I think we've done it. No problems, our fingers crossed, right? All right, Norbert, did you have anything else you want to wrap up with?
No, I'm good.
Okay, cool. Guys, that was amazing. I love the questions, and I really love the interaction. That's cool. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Obviously, our information's there. And yeah, looking forward to speaking with you guys. Have a great day. Hope everybody's staying COVID safe and all that. And thank you. Thank you. And feel free to reach out if you have any other questions. All right. Take care, guys. Have a good
Bye.
day. Bye.